In today's lesson, we're going to get to something that I've been trying to do for a long time, and we're going to talk about how to structure hard punches on the move. We're going to understand the concept of structure on contact, and by the time you're done, you're going to have a whole bunch of new skills to punch with authority while keeping the pressure on opponent so you can have success when you fight. We're going to structure today's lesson according to how somebody would learn and apply these principles. We're going to start with somebody who's new and uneducated, and we're going to work our way up to somebody who is more experienced and how they would apply these principles with an expert understanding. So the first thing you'd see here would be somebody who is uneducated, somebody who has not been in a boxing gym, somebody who might be in a world star hip hop street fight video. They're neither going to have good punch structure nor good positioning. They're going to be throwing that classic whipping windmill overhand right where they don't have their feet under them, they don't have their hips in the shot, and they haven't lined things up. This is bad across the board. The next level up from this is going to be somebody who's a boxer, who is boxing, but hasn't been formally educated. And when they move into position trying to punch, they're either going to compromise their position or they're going to compromise their punch structure. Poor structure on a shot would mean that they don't have good contact with the ground and they're not putting their hip in the shot. Poor positioning on the shot would be selecting the wrong place to throw the punch, such as hooking on the line. Our next step up would be somebody who is educated in lane theory and punch position. Maybe they've had some private lessons with a boxing coach. Maybe they've been coming and training with a team or at a gym. They understand the appropriate technique to generate power on the punch, and they understand the position they need to be in, but they can't do these things congruently, and they're slow to get there. So they'll take 2 steps, 2 beats to get into the correct position, and then they'll throw a correct punch. They're not doing anything wrong, but what they're doing is slow. It's going to take them 3 beats to get their offense started, and that just isn't applicable in a real fight setting. Our next level up of experience would be somebody who might be an amateur competitor or has been bumming around the gym and sparring for a while. These folks understand what foot needs to be down as they're punching, and they understand the positions they need to be in to throw certain punches. So because of this, they're going to use a punch to get to position. This makes them harder to hit. This makes them a moving target as they're being offensive. It makes them harder to counter, and it'll set them up for other punches once they get to the position. Examples of this would be stepping in on the 2 or recovering by traveling laterally with one of your hooks when somebody exits elbow side on you. A more advanced competitor, somebody who's an open class amateur or a professional, is going to know how to punch to the position they want to punch from. So this sounds kind of strange, but they're going to use their punches, such as the 6-3, to travel to their closed side on the 6 while they have their right leg down to generate power, and then they're in position to throw the 3 as they recover that right leg. Another example of this concept would be the 5-4-5 as I walk to my open lane and into my open angle. I always have the correct foot down to generate power on my punch. I am on the move, and I am always in the position to throw a correct, well-structured shot. This is one of the few canned combos in my arsenal. Our final level of complexity here would be somebody that I would consider an expert. A savvy veteran who's been around the game for a long time, understands how to structure their shots, understands how to time their hips, and now has this added superpower of understanding a concept called structure on contact. Now, structure on contact, if I'm being extremely reductive, is the idea that none of your positioning for a punch matters until the moment of impact. And if you are doing this correctly, whether you have your foot there a second ahead of time or it gets there at the moment of impact, as long as you have your foot down to lever against the ground, your fist is making strong contact with the target, and your hips are locking out, you're going to hit equally hard. It's about timing these three things. The expert in this scenario will structure the desired punch as they take the desired position. Now, you may say, why doesn't everybody do this? The timing on getting these three things to line up is extremely hard. It's hard to do shadow boxing, it's hard to do on the bag, and it's extremely hard to do in the chaos of a fight with a moving and savvy target in front of you. The timing on this is extremely challenging to get correct, so I'm going to show you a drill that's going to help you get it when you do your own solo training. This is going to feel backwards to how you usually structure your feet, but what you want to do is you want to practice lifting and stomping down your foot while standing stationary and punching a bag. You can go through lots of different punches, but what you want to make sure here is that as your hand lands, your foot lands and your hip locks. If you can get this down without moving, you can start practicing it on the move with a partner, on the mitts, and then you can start applying this concept to your sparring and your competition. I always think about this concept with that bell curve meme, where you have somebody who's an idiot thinking that they can step the same side foot as they punch, and somebody who's an expert knowing that they can step the same side foot as they punch, and then that poor soy jack sad in the middle saying,
"You have to step the opposite foot as the side you're punching all the time."
The caveat extrapolating off of this oversimplification of this meme is that the correct technique is whatever gets the job done. All of these tactics and principles are best practices that are going to increase your reward and decrease your risk. If you adhere to these, statistically, you are very likely to have success, but you also need to be smart enough to abandon ship and improvise when it's appropriate and when your opponent gives you permission. If they're breaking the rules, you should punish them for it. So, to help us demonstrate these concepts and these tactics, we're going to watch Bob Satterfield, a fighter I love who did this better than anybody that I can think of in history. What we're going to see here with this film as we break it down is pretty advanced, but I'm trusting my athletes and my followers to be able to keep up, pay attention, and remember, with YouTube, you can stop things, slow things down, so that you can learn all of these tactics yourself and emulate them in your training. All right, let's watch Bob Satterfield in action. You can see right here how well he turns his left hip and his right hip into his shots. And you can see, even though these are gigantic punches, he is keeping his foot on the punching side down. He is bracing with that foot as he makes contact on these shots. He's got excellent hips, whether he's stepping forward or backward. And right here especially, you can see him levering against the ground. I'm surprised he doesn't put his foot through the canvas as he generates power on this left hand. So you see, dig, dig. He drives his feet into the floor. He drives his fist into his target. And again, if we watch that slow, you can see how beautifully he turns over that hip, points that knee and that foot right at what he's hitting, and it gets the job done. You can see the difference in the quality of footwork in this exchange. As Satterfield fights his way out of the corner and starts structuring his shots, his opponent is being forced over their heels. Satterfield is low, his weight's even, and he always has a foot down to lever against to generate powerful offense. Hit, hit, hit. Beautiful work. Even when he falls through, he still takes the time to get his base back under him before he makes contact on any of those punches. Another beautiful knockdown, driving that right foot hard into the floor, driving that right fist hard into his opponent's face. This exchange here is truly fascinating because you see Satterfield structuring punches on the move. Even as he switches stances, he makes sure that he understands that that principle is universal. It doesn't matter what foot's forward and what foot's back, as long as the foot on the punching side is down, he's pressing into the ground and he's driving his hip through at the moment of contact. Orthodox, southpaw, orthodox, southpaw on the move. Doing his best Roy Jones Jr. impression, or maybe Roy Jones Jr. is doing his best Satterfield impression, getting behind his opponent. Excellent work. And again, you can see how powerfully those hips drive through. There have been lots and lots of studies on amateur fighters that assess where muscles are contracting in their body. And self-described power punchers are using their glutes, they're using their legs much, much, much more. That's your center of mass, those are your largest muscles. It's the largest point of articulation in your body, and you should learn how to leverage it appropriately. Strong base. Even when he's walking through and switching stances, when he lands, those feet are down. Let's see that again. So to the untrained eye, this looks like a very wild exchange. Jack Dempsey has a quote that I love where he says, all the footwork and all the defense don't matter if when you get a chance to hurt the guy, you can't do it. Satterfield in this exchange knows what matters. Things are getting sloppy, things are getting chaotic, but when he lands, his feet are down, his hips are driving through. Let's see that again. Down, 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 down. And it looks like his opponent's going down. Great work. Great work. Gosh, you don't see styles like this anymore. And again, you see him traveling through stances, but this is why it's important that you don't get hung up on technique, you understand tactics and principles that get the job done. There's a lot of footage of this one particular fight. He gave that boy a beating. This here's a really good example of Satterfield picking his moments. When he's over his heels and he's walking backwards, he doesn't just wing wild punches. He waits until he can get a foot under him to throw hard and with authority. Walking, planted and fire, planted and fire. Excellent job. And as a side note, he even makes a point to leverage those shots to allow him to move to his right, his opponent's closed side, which is a safer and more dominant position to attack from. Amazing. In today's lesson, we talked about structure on contact. and the evolution of your understanding of this principle as you develop and gain experience as a fighter, as a boxer. Hopefully you learned something today so that you can practice on your own time. Hopefully you learned about a fun new fighter, Bob Satterfield, that can help to steer you in understanding what this should look like when it's at its best so that you can have success in your own training and in your own competition when you fight.